Hello, 7th graders. Welcome to English 7B's flipped preview video on analyzing theme and poem structures. Welcome, this is Mrs. Alexander, and I'm excited to dive into this content with you today. All right, so in this flipped preview video, we will be analyzing two poems from lesson 2.11 titled Nothing Gold Can Stay and Dragonfly. We're specifically going to be looking at theme, word choice, and figurative language. I hope that you have a pen or pencil or another type of digital note-taking device. As you are watching this video, you can pause it, replay, rewind, but make sure you're paying attention to the special notes in this video. All right, so the lesson objectives for this video and for a flipped follow-up session that will be following this video is to determine theme and identify how it develops throughout a poem. Also, to determine the figurative meaning of words and phrases and how it impacts the meaning of the poem. It's important for us to understand three key terms for this lesson. The first is theme. A theme of a literary work is the main message the author wants to communicate to the reader. Authors carefully develop the themes in their writing through characters, setting, plot, and imagery. You in English class will always be analyzing, identifying, and explaining different themes from different literary texts. So this is a skill and a standard that you will continue to master and show your understanding of throughout your career in English class. A metaphor is a figure of speech that describes an object or action in a way that isn't literally true, but helps explain an idea or make a comparison. And figurative language. We talk a lot about figurative language, and some of these terms may be familiar to you. It's important for you to pay attention to the figurative language examples in this poem, or I should say in these two poems, such as similes, metaphors, personification, imagery, and much more. All right, so in this brief video here on this page, I have identified and showed you that you can find these poems in your in lesson 2.11 for English 7B. In lesson 2.11, you will be reading two poems, Nothing Gold Can Stay, which is a famous poem from the book The Outsiders, and another poem called Dragonfly. You can use your physical textbook, or you can read these poems straight in your reading lesson 2.11 by clicking on the read hyperlinks that take you to the ebook. You could also have the book read it out loud to you, as you notice that there's a black circle button on the pages, and if you click on that, the ebook will read it aloud to you. Again, remember that a theme is a lesson or moral that the author of a text wants you to take away from the text. Themes can also be applied to your own life. So a theme that you analyze from a text might be applicable to your own life, such as money can't buy happiness. If that was a theme that I read about in a text, I could also see how the author could want me to compare that theme to instances in my own life. All right, and here's some quiz support for you on the next few pages because there will be a quiz at the end of this lesson. It's important for you to understand what connotation and denotation is. So let's look at the left-hand side of this screen. Connotation is the emotional or contextual meaning of the word, meaning how it's being used in the text. Now, denotation is the dictionary definition of the word. And when I try to help students identify or decipher between what connotation and denotation is, I always like to say, look, denotation and dictionary definition, it all starts with a D. So that can help remind me that denotation means it's the actual meaning of the word as it's stated in a dictionary. And the connotation might be a different meaning of the word depending on how it's being used in a text or poem. Let's look at this example. Read the lines from the poem, The Dragonfly. Now, whether you're watching this video and you've read the Dragonfly poem or you haven't yet done so, this is an excerpt from it. You dart into the shadow which consumes you. Now, you may be asked, what is the connotative meaning of the word consumes? If you looked up the dictionary definition of it, I don't think that you would find that consumes means hiding. But in this instance, the shadow is hiding the dragonfly, which is what this excerpt is talking about. It consumes it, right? If I go into a shadow, it consumes me and I am hidden. So the connotative meaning of the word consumes is hiding. There might be a different dictionary definition of the word consumes, but in this instance, the connotative meaning is hiding. All right, the next thing I want you to make note of is the effect of rhyme scheme on a poem. As you're going through the lessons, I want you to be able to identify what the rhyme scheme is. If you're familiar with this from past years, your rhyme scheme might be A, B, A, B, meaning line A rhymes with the third line, 1 and 3, and line B rhymes with the fourth line, 2 and 4. The rhyme scheme usually happens at the end of the poem and helps create meaning or an effect. So read the lines from this poem, Nothing Gold Can Stay. Her early leaves to flower, but only so an hour. Now you might be asked, what is the effect of the rhyme in these lines from the poem? Well, maybe I didn't read it creepily enough, but the effect can create a haunting rhythm. Her early leaves to flower, but only so an hour. A haunting meaning we don't really know what's happening next. All right, and what about the effective rhyme scheme on this excerpt from Nothing Gold Can Stay? Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief. Well, what is the effect of the rhyme scheme in these lines from the poem? Think about what is the deeper meaning behind what's going on in these two lines. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief. Well, obviously we see that word grief here, and we know that grief has a sad connotation. Usually in sad experiences, people experience or go through grief. And so somber is another word for grief. It's a synonym. It's a very saddening feeling, when I think of somber, I think of Eeyore from Pooh. Have you seen Winnie the Pooh? Maybe you haven't, but Eeyore is somebody who goes around and just says, hello, I'm doing okay today. It's a very somber person, a very somber animal, I should say. All right, some other quiz help that I want you to really pay attention to as you're working through your lesson 1.11. You're going to be asked, what is the meaning of a metaphor, or how does it impact the poem? So remember, metaphors are comparing two things, not using like or as. So nature's first green is gold. This is an excerpt from Nothing Gold Can Stay. And what is the meaning of this metaphor? Think about what this means, and you might have to reread parts of the poem to understand the context of this line. So make sure you have your book out as you're going through your lesson and taking your quizzes. The first days of spring are the best days. So nature's first green is gold. It's saying the first few days of spring, when everything starts turning green, it's gold. It's like finding the jackpot. It's the best. All right? And here's another figurative language. So personification, this is something that may be a review term for you, but personification is giving inanimate objects, like things that aren't alive, human-like qualities. So in this excerpt from the Dragonfly poem, link between water and air, earth repels you. Now, earth is not necessarily a living thing, although it does contain living things, and I guess that statement could be argued. It is giving the earth as just a planet human-like qualities, right? The earth repels you. So what effect does this figurative language have on the poem in Dragonfly? Well, here, this means that the dragonfly never stays in one place for very long. The link between water and air, earth repels you. So the dragonfly is always moving around. And metaphor, comparing two things, not using like or as, like we've stated before. So what about this line from the poem Dragonfly? You rocket into the day. What does that mean? What is the deeper meaning behind that? They're not actually talking about the dragonfly rocketing, and the dragonfly is not turning into a rocket, but it means that the dragonfly moves very quickly, like a rocket, right? When you think of a rocket, it shoots off into space. So the meaning of this line, this figurative language, is the dragonfly moves very quickly. Here's some other things that I want you to make note of for this video in demonstrating that you can properly identify themes from a poem and even gather some textual evidence to support how do you know this theme exists. So in the poem Dragonfly, one theme is life is short and fleeting. And you might ask me, how do I know? Well, the poet describes the short life of the dragonfly. And so, a theme that I can gather from this poem is that in this dragonfly's short life, everything is fleeting. It's passing by quickly. Nothing is permanent. It's all going past us. It's fleeting. Another theme from the dragonfly poem is small things in nature can bring joy. Okay, well, how do I know that this is a theme that I can identify from this poem? Well, the poet has a sense of admiration of the dragonfly, of this small little creature that exists in nature. And throughout the poem, there's a lot of imagery and detail that the poet uses to show this admiration, to show that this little creature can bring so much joy. This is a wonderful theme that I like to even apply to my own life. Sometimes when I eat a small piece of dark chocolate, it brings me much joy. It brings me happiness, a deep happiness of, wow, that tastes really good. And another theme from the Dragonfly poem is nature provides a spectacle of wonder. And you might ask, well, how do I know this? Well, again, the poet uses imagery and details to create this sense of admiration and wonder of, again, this small little thing in nature. Really captivated this poet enough to write a whole poem about it. Think about it. Have you ever experienced a dragonfly on a hot summer day? I actually do kind of admire their life. They just kind of bounce around, doing no harm really to anything. I don't know much about dragonflies, but this poem has now made me want to learn more about them. Well, thank you for watching this flipped preview video on analyzing theme and figurative language in two poems. I'll see you on the flipped side. Check your Class Connect schedule for live English classes to carry out this topic and skills further. Sincerely, Mrs. A.